Today I'm going to take you through the full build. We got suspension to talk about, we got wheel and tire changes to talk about, we got geometry changes, and we also have the infamous how much stuff did I cut question to talk about. Also, I'll go through how it rides, how these parts perform, so we're going to cover all of that in today's video. I'm also going to give you a bonus, which is the wife price for each of these parts that I installed in the vehicle. So, got to give you that price because, well, she's watching. So I've always been someone who likes to modify their vehicles. I started off rebuilding a 95 Ford Bronco when I first got into cars when I was younger. After that 95 Ford Bronco, I moved up to an RSX Type S that I tuned, and then I went up to a WRX, Subaru WRX. I took that thing to stage 2, which was pretty cool. After the WRX, I went through a few different cars, but then during COVID, I got the bug for 4x4s. I don't know why, I just wanted to get out, I guess. And so I bought a Jeep Gladiator, and that's what really gave me the itch for off-roading. I was dating my now wife at the time who lived down in Georgia, and we took that thing through the North Georgia mountains, and I got some videos of that on the channel. You can actually check those first videos out. Some of the first times I ever went off-roading are on this channel. And I got the itch hard, man. I love these 4x4s, and then I went from the Gladiator to a Jeep 392, which was pretty cool. And then once we hopped in the 392, I kind of realized that thing was, it was kind of just, fun because it had a big 392 in it, but the build quality just kind of sucked. So I went from that to a Lexus GX 460, which I really, really loved. Didn't really modify that thing too much. And then I jumped from the GX 460 into a few things, but ultimately ended up in this 4Runner. And, this build is special to me for that reason because I've never built a 4x4 before. I've never really done a 4x4 suspension. So I had to learn a ton with you guys on this channel as I built this thing. And I really am happy with where I got it. But my goal for it was really to be reliable, to be capable, and still be a comfortable daily driver. So with that, let's talk about some of the changes that I made here and how they meet that goal, and we'll dive into the details. Okay, so as I mentioned, I really wanted to focus on keeping this thing a comfortable daily driver. Okay, that was super, super important to me because a lot of times when folks lift their 4x4s, 4Runners, Jeeps, whatever, they become unbearable on the highway. They're loud, they shake, all of the above, not good. And I didn't want to have that. I wanted this to still be a comfortable daily driver, so I really put a lot of thought into each individual component on this vehicle to make sure that it met those goals. My other goals, besides being a comfortable daily driver, were being able to comfortably haul mountain bikes on pretty challenging trails up in North Georgia to wherever I wanted to get it to, and to be able to have fun just wheeling this thing on the weekends with my son if I wanted to go out up in the North Georgia mountains and actually hit some Jeep trails. Wanted to feel totally comfortable there. Now, the 4Runner can do a lot of that stuff stock. Again, this is probably not necessary, but I wanted to push it and make sure that it had, a pretty high ceiling when it came to tapping out on capability before I had to do something different or get a separate, side-by-side or something to get me somewhere. This thing, the way it's set up, should be very, very capable at this point, and I'm going to test it in a few weeks as we go up to the North Georgia mountains and do some trails. So let's talk about the suspension. So the first thing that I picked, it really isn't the first thing, but we'll start with the suspension. The suspension that I decided to go with was the Bilstein 8112 setup, and I think I shared that already with y'all on the channel, but the Bilstein 8112 setup in the front and the 8110s in the rear are phenomenal, phenomenal shocks. They are not cheap. The price for these was somewhere around $500 for the whole kit, pretty pricey. And you'll see that I also have the Dobinson upper control arms. Those were about $200 as well, pretty pricey. But I will say the Dobinson upper control arms are some of the best when it comes to quality control. They don't require a lot of service. They're very durable. And I'll tell you, the ride with the 8112s and these Dobinson upper control arms has been phenomenal. I can ramp this thing off speed bumps, and it's got a triple piston design in these shocks, and they just control the rebound so well in the vehicle. It's very firm, but it's also still really comfortable. So I do think that it firmed the ride up, but we'll get to more of why I think the ride's a little bit more firmed up in a second here. But that's the suspension setup that I went with. The other piece that I wanted to call out is the tires. So the tires I decided to go with, and tires make a big difference when you're building these trucks. You got to decide initially what size tire are you trying to fix. That kind of helps you back in everything you have to do to the truck. So the tires that I decided to go with were the BFG KO3s. Now the sizing is, I think, the best size tire for a 4Runner if you're trying to push it to the limits. It's a 34-inch tire, technically a 33.8-inch tire, but these are 285, 75, 17s. Most folks, when they build their 4Runners, just throw 285 70s on, and I think the 285 75 with the larger sidewall actually fills the wheel well quite a bit better, and it gives you like almost an additional inch, I believe, in height when you actually measure the diameter to the height of the vehicle. So I think it's worth it, and I will say the problem with these tires for BFG, if you wanted the KO3s, and I did want the KO3s because I was very adamant about maintaining really good ride quality, and I think BFG has some of the best quality control out there when it comes to tires. Obviously, Falcon and Toyo also make good tires. I think those tires are probably great as well, but I really wanted to get the KO3s. I think the new technology and the way they're building them is really innovative, and some of the stuff they're doing, there's much better detailed videos on that I'll let you look up on your own. But the trouble in this size, the 285, 75, 17, is that they only make an E-rated E-load tire. So I went with an E-load tire. These are E-load. Now, I know you're all probably thinking, oh boy, like isn't it a rough ride? Is that tough? And I gotta say, it's really not as rough as you would think. I think the E-load tires are absolutely firmer, and they do emit more vibration over small bumps into the cabin. There's no doubt about that. But when it comes to high speed, speed bumps or, whatever it might be, off-roading, I think they're going to be pretty good. I think because the new technology is a softer compound in these BFG KO3s and you have such a thick sidewall, I think it still does a pretty good job of minimizing vibration to the cab, even though these are E-load tires. Now, I will say, if you're looking for the most comfortable ride, I would probably recommend still going with a C-load. They're still harder. I can still feel it on the highway. There definitely is more vibration in the cabin, but it's by no means uncomfortable, and it really doesn't bother me that much. So I'm very happy with the tire choice. And then you have the added protection off-road. If you do catch a rock in the sidewall, these things aren't breaking. So you can push this thing pretty good. So I do like that peace of mind. I also wanted to tell you about the springs in the rear. So the springs in the rear, these Bilstein 8110s, they can be paired with pretty much any 2-inch spring out there. I went with the Icon 2-inch springs, but you can also look at the Bilstein factory ones as well as the Dobinsons are popular. I went with the Icon 2-inch springs, and they're known to, check this out, they're known to be a little bit stiffer than factory, but they're not like overly stiff. Some of the heavy duty springs are super stiff. I think these are rated for like a few extra 100 pounds, maybe 200 or 300 pounds. But check this out. If you have a 4Runner, you know how soft the tailgate is. And this is how firm it is with those new springs. So they're definitely a little bit firmer than factory, but they're not quite as firm as some of the Dobinsons that I've seen out there. Now, I might throw a metal bumper on this or something, which it should be perfect. You just add a few extra 100 pounds when I put, bikes or cargo on the hitch mount. I think it'll be perfect for that. So let's talk wheels and tires now. I know we already talked about the tires a little bit, but the wheels are Method 708s in gloss titanium. Now, I was a little concerned about going with gloss titanium because it matches the gray of the 4Runner a little bit, but I actually really like how it looks. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you like it? Do you think it looks good? I think it looks kind of cool. So gloss titanium wheels, they are a 0 offset, so a little bit more outward than the factory TRD off-road premium wheels. And I did that intentionally. I didn't want to get a negative offset going here because if you run a big negative offset on the 4Runners, on most Toyota IFS vehicles, you have a really hard time with the outward poke of the wheel, increasing the wheel arc and rubbing. So I didn't want to have to cut even more than I already had to cut to fit the 34-inch tires. So with that, I think this is the perfect setup for the 5th gen. Having a 0 offset, you can run a big tire. I think it still looks really good. I think it feels pretty flush with the edge of the vehicle, which is what I want. I don't want that stupid outward poke. I'm sorry if you guys like that. I don't like how that looks. I think I want it to look like, actually functional, which is also my goal with the suspension. I didn't want to, lift it too much. So with that, the suspension, I forgot to cover this, but the suspension is 2.5 inches lifted in the rear. That's the factory height from Bilstein, and then 2 inches in the rear, which I did cover on the springs. And I went with the factory 2.5 inch height on the front because I didn't want to limit the down travel too much. If you raise your vehicle too high, 3.5 inches, say, you have a lot of issues with your internal suspension geometry. Your CV axles can get really, out of whack and cause premature wear. And you also lose down travel because you're basically, preloading the suspension so much that the down travel is limited. So I went with the 2.5 inch height in the front and the rear, and I think that's perfect for what I was looking for. Total cost for the tires, and the wheels. I got a pretty good deal, guys. I got 5 of these things. Only cost me about $1,000 total for wheels and tires, maybe $1,100 or so. I had a pretty good discount, but about $1,100 for you know, 5 BFG KO3s brand new and 5 Method 708 wheels. All right, let's talk about the cutting now. Let's get into it a little bit more. All right, so you'll see here we did have to do the body mount chop, and a quick plug for these guys, ACC Garage in Atlanta. They did this for me, the weld and the cut, and they did a phenomenal job. They did a cut, welded on the body mount chop plates on the edge, and then repainted them, and I think they just look amazing. A lot of people don't show you this. They don't show you their body mount chop. Feels like a little weird to show it, but yeah, this is it. It looks great. I'm super happy with it, and everything is, you know, functioning perfectly, and it looks super clean. It looks OEM, and then we also had to do some trimming up front, so you'll see here, had to do some trimming up in the fender liner here. It's kind of hard to get this stuff on camera for you, but had to do some trimming down in there. Not a huge deal. You can see the water bottle, the washer fluid right there a little bit. And I might get, you know, like a different washer fluid bottle or something like that so it looks better. But yeah, I didn't have to cut the bumper or do a full Viper cut or anything like that. So overall, I think it looks pretty clean, and yeah, let me just adjust that for you. Yeah, overall I think it looks pretty clean, and I'm pretty happy with how that came out. And let me show you the rear now as well, because we did do some geometry changes. So before we get into the geometry changes in the rear, the Panhard correction that we had done, I wanted to show you the spare tire. So I was curious if I was going to be able to fit the spare tire in this in the 285/75, and turns out fits totally fine. It probably couldn't fit any of a, you know, larger of a tire, but the 285/75 just fit in the spare tire rack, which is just awesome, because then you don't have to mount it on the back of your tailgate, which is a little bit of a pain. So really happy that worked out. All right, so right there you'll see the Imkeith Panhard correction that was also welded on and painted. I'm really happy with that. I think that came out super clean. You can see it fixed the geometry of the Panhard bar. Now the Panhard bar is pretty much level, which is awesome, and I can attest that in driving it handles great. I'm not feeling any sort of crab walking in the rear, and I'm really happy that we did the Panhard correction with the Imkeith Panhard correction weld-on plate. And the last and final thing that I changed on this 4Runner to make this build perfect was I replaced the needle bearing on the driver's side of the vehicle with the East Coast Gear Supply ECGS clamshell bushing, and that thing replaces the stock needle bearing. And the reason you do that is because in these vehicles, a lot of times the needle bearings wear out prematurely as is, and when you lift them, it puts a lot more pressure on that needle bearing, and they tend to fail. So to eliminate a fail point, I just went ahead and swapped it out while we were under there and got it fixed, so we didn't have to worry about it in the future. So overall, guys, I think this build came out really well. I'm really happy with how it looks. It still drives really great. It still feels like it's going to be able to do everything that I want it to do while being a comfortable daily driver. If you're building a 4Runner, if this is helpful to you, please like and subscribe to the video. Let me know if you want to see some more detailed comparisons of the Bilstein shocks or, you know, the BFG KO3 tires. If you're looking for a more detailed review of those, happy to provide that. But until next time, guys, expect to see some more changes with this thing and some more updates. But I'll catch you in the next video. Peace. Push it to the limit, I can't go no more. Red light, no way, I'm coming back home. Long dirt road, all on my own. I'ma be the greatest, write my name in the stone. Write my name in the stone. Yeah, I'm coming back.